Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Captain's Log, the Daily Drive. Here we go on another adventure. Um, I'm in the middle of my work week, and it's been one of those weeks. Last night, I was in Albany, New York, and Albany, New York, in the northeastern United States. Um, we had a little bit of a delay, and this delay was due to air traffic control in Florida, Jacksonville, Florida, which is the cause for many delays lately. First, it was because there was a shortage of air traffic controllers. Then we had the government shutdown. And then after the shutdown, the shortage continued. So every once in a while, that shortage catches up. And as you know, we have a lot of flights happening right now because of the holidays. People are returning home. People coming back home uh, from their vacations or visiting family and loved ones, or they're still going to a location where they can share that time with their family. In fact, my family and I have still not had our celebration of gift exchanges. I've I've celebrated my holy day, and I was reverent on that day, but I also worked on that day, and that was voluntarily. So that's the way that played out for me. So in Albany, we we were ready to go. We had everybody in position, and then air traffic control uh, told us there was going to be a 2-hour delay. Now there was a snowstorm. Oh, it was about 2 hours away, and we were trying to get out of there early because we know the implications. We know that it gets later and later, and normally or usually that will affect people's flights or connecting to other cities. But that, I believe, that was the last flight of the day to Orlando, and um, it's home for me as well. So we didn't want to be stuck in the weather. Now, um, consequently, we were delayed that 2-hour period. So that did put us in the weather just like we thought it would. And um, the snow began, and it began really hard. It was coming down furiously. When we pushed back from the gate, um, we had to de-ice. Now, for those of you that don't know what that means, the de-ice process is a requirement. The aircraft, per FAA guidance, cannot depart with snow, frost, or ice, or any frozen precipitation of any kind on the wings on the airframe of the airplane. So, if it's below a certain temperature, um, and there is visible moisture, we need to use the de-ice process and clear the airframe of ice, or snow. And that typically is a heated fluid. It's called a type 2 fluid. It's got a solution and hot water, and they literally just spray all of the stuff off of the aircraft. Now, if there is falling precipitation, if there's moisture, like snow or freezing fog, or any rain under those temperatures, then we need to apply a type 4 fluid. Type 4 fluid is a preventive fluid. When you clean the aircraft with the type 2, and then you use the type 4, and uh, use that preventive measure, that gives you what we call a hold over time. It could be anywhere from 15 minutes approximately to as much as an hour, depending on the conditions. If it's snow pellets, if it's snow, or if it's frost, or if it's light snow, or heavy snow, or rain, drizzle, freezing fog, whatever the conditions are, we have guidance and it tells us how much time we have. Now, the company that I work with takes an additional measure and they have additional tools for us that we can put in all those parameters and it spits out the time. And so when the process is completed, we have to, when the process is completed, um, we set the timer. And it gives us a countdown, and we have to be off the ground before that time is expired. Now, what ended up happening yesterday, well, let me see if I could talk you through it. It was kind of complicated. When we pushed back from the gate, we had to de-ice. Well, okay, so we call the de-ice trucks. They come over. We communicate with them. We prepare everything. We prepare the aircraft, rather, for the process. We communicate with the ground crew, referred to as Iceman, and and then they begin the process. While we were de-icing, um, they went through the whole process, and there was so much snow on the airplane that they ran out of fluid. Now they had to go and get a second truck. That second truck, boy, that took about 30 minutes. So in that 30 minutes, snow continued to fall. Um, when they arrived with that truck, um, another aircraft had returned to the gate because their fluid application um, was not sufficient to protect the airplane from the falling snow. So there was a fluid failure. And so the airplane, I think it's because they exceeded the amount of time they were allowed to be on the ground because of air traffic control. So the aircraft had to come back to the gate. Now we were blocking that gate. So now it's starting to really get complicated. They're still trying to de-ice us. That aircraft has now returned to the gate, but they can't get in the gate because we're blocking that gate. And so we start our de-ice process again, and we put it on hold because we noticed that they were plowing the runways. Now this Type 4 fluid was going to give us approximately 18 minutes from the time we start the engines to the time we take off. But we were right next to the runway, so I wasn't too concerned. We were going to, make that time, no problem. But not if we had to wait for them to plow the runway. So um, they started plowing the runway. I called the tower. We called the tower and we asked how long that process was going to take. And they said, well, on the safe side, about 10 minutes. So we held off on completing the de-ice process. We wanted to time it so that it was done as the runway became available, so we could be finished, start our timer, start the engines, and start taxiing for takeoff. That was the plan. So I think I missed my exit here. Yikes. Let me see. Let me put this in here real quick.
Obey traffic laws, be alert, and use voice commands while driving.
Oh, it's still ahead. Perfect. So, um, so continuing with our explanation here, we we did just that. We timed it so that we can de-ice the aircraft and be on the runway shortly after they plowed it. So we had a nice clean runway, we had a nice clean aircraft, and we were ready to go. The visibility began to really get bad. And when I say bad, I'm referring to um, the visibility started to drop. First, it was, first it was 2 miles, then it was a half a mile, then it was a quarter of a mile, and so there are limitations for us to take off with visibility below a certain point also. So we had that working against us, air traffic control working against us, and in the meantime, the snowstorm was intensifying. And I was concerned that we may encounter fluid failure, but we did not. Um, to make a long story short, um, that entire process took 2.5 hours from the time we pushed back from the gate. Now, there were some other things that were triggered during that time. For example, um, there is a passenger bill of rights. That means that um, there are certain things that we are required by the FAA to do for our passengers. There is guidance. For example, you know, after 30 to 60 minutes, we are required to do a water service, um, and we're required to make a PA, a public announcement, and make sure that the passengers are informed with what's happening. In fact, we're supposed to do that a minimum of every 30 minutes to inform them, because nobody likes to sit in the back and be stuck there wondering what's happening. And time is elapsing. People are nervous. They're pressured because they don't want to miss whatever events they have on the other end at the destination. So they're nervous and they're afraid. So communication is key. So after 90 minutes, an hour and 30 minutes, um, we are required to, in addition to the beverages, we are required to give them food, to offer food. And when we get to the 2 hour mark, 120 minutes, we have to communicate with our dispatcher and with air traffic control on the ground, and company, and we need to make arrangements to go back to the gate, because after 2 hours, if there is no plan to take off, we are actually required to begin plans to deplane and allow people to get off the airplane, stretch their legs, buy a meal, whatever it is they want to do. Um, and if you don't do that and you hit 3 hours without making it back to the gate, now don't quote me, but this is information I've heard from the past, from previous airlines. Um, it is a $3 million fine for the company. And I'm not sure if it continues to escalate with more and more time. I mean, disasters, you don't know. There could be anything that could prevent an aircraft from getting back to the gate, not enough gates, et cetera, et cetera. As long as it's not the company's fault, I'm sure that there is some forgiveness. Now, there are some issues with the rest of the audio on this clip, so we're going to end it here. But hit subscribe and like, follow us. There'll be more audio and visual to come. We would love to have you be part of our adventure. Thank you. In short, on this particular flight, thanks to the coordinated efforts of the ramp crews, ATC, and all of the wonderful resources that the company I work for provides, I have to say we are provided with the very best equipment, both aircraft and resources, and I feel so blessed to work with them. Our flight was able to get out, even though we got into Orlando at 3 o'clock in the morning. We did get all the passengers home. People didn't miss their cruises and their vacations, and I feel really proud about that. So a big kudos to the rest of our teams that made this happen. Really proud to be part of the team effort. Glad everybody got home.